Hey there, this is K4A, Knowledge for All educational videos channel. In today's video I will open a new series of videos in which I will answer to your questions regarding game engines, graphics, game making, or anything related to this YouTube channel. And this playlist, this series will be called Q&A, as for questions and answers, and I have made a few bullet points to make this shorter, and I hope you can hear me well, because a few last videos I think I sounded a little bit low, so it wasn't loud enough. It's maybe because I don't speak very loud, but also because of my mic, not sure. Anyway, let's go through these bullet points and see what I have on my mind for this new series. First of all, this whole name for playlist Q&A, that's first bullet point, Q&A. That is short for questions and answers, so Q&A, questions and answers.
Q&A.
Definition of it is that's an event or session during which members of an audience have the opportunity to ask a notable person questions. So you as audience can ask me whatever you think I can answer about making games or graphics or whatever we talk about in other tutorials, and that's it. I don't think about myself as notable person, but again, it's a dialogue between you as YouTube watchers and me, who am creating videos for this channel. So you post a question and I will try to answer it, and I already have a few questions on different YouTube clips I have posted, so I will start with them probably. So another bullet point is the question, so let's talk about that a little bit. Questions should be short, small, and try to ask questions about real world problems for your games or ideas, graphics, programming, or whatever you think I can help with. So nothing too complex or too long, or some ideas which need too much time and effort to elaborate. Next topic is answers. So answers should be as questions, same as above, short, small, and something which we can turn into solutions or at least ideas and techniques for your game or animation or whatever you make. So even if I don't know the answer, which is also very possible, I will at least try to give some kind of idea or a technique which you can use or learn more about it on your own, or try it on your own, or try it with someone else, and so on, because as I just said, some kind of questions, they not only because I don't know how to answer them, they need more time, more different skills, and so on. So I will try to avoid those, but again, try you as a watcher, try to avoid making questions which are needing those kind of answers. So we will that way both of us will be on the good track. So next bullet point is graphics, game art, design, and so on. That's what I'm going to try to talk a little bit more in the future on this channel. So again, 2D, 3D graphics, that's what I have experience with in game development, web development, graphics in general, so for design purposes, for real world products and so on. So that's all connected through theory, and once you learn the basics and the rules of design or graphics in general, then you can apply that no matter what's the problem or where do you want to make something. Is it a game art, is it a web design, traditional art, and so on. So all the basics rules apply to all of those different dimensions, let's call them like that. So, and the same goes with the softwares applications. They work more or less on same basic rules, so I will try to approach it that way. Next topic is programming. I also work in programming more or less again on my games and for different indie or smaller studios. So again, as with the graphics, programming in general has some kind of basic rules, and those kind of rules and ideas apply no matter what kind of game engine you use or programming coding language. It doesn't matter if you code and make game in Scratch or GameMaker or Unity. If you know the basics, you can define your problem, find it, and solve it. So next topic, next bullet point is benefits, and the whole idea of this new series Q&A is to help people in real world with real world problems in terms of mostly game development, but as I said, design, graphics, and so on, and to help more than one person, because some of you will ask questions which are usable for more than one person, for more than one game, more than one game engines, and so on. So you can reuse them for your games many times, or different people can reuse them for different projects and so on. So that's the whole idea, not to repeat myself and to help more people that way, but also the last word is agnostic. That means that's not, for example, software agnostic means it's not software related to only one software and application, for example Unity, but you can, as I was explaining a few seconds ago, when you learn the basics, the rules, you can apply it to all different softwares, game engines, and so on. So that's the idea, one of the ideas and benefits of this new series. And yeah, probably something more which I have forgot. Anyway, next topic, next bullet point is dialogue, two-way street. That's how I see this series, but my YouTube channel in general, as a dialogue between me and you who are watching this, and as a two-way street, which again means that I expect that you involve yourself as much as possible if you want some answers from me, and vice versa. So I don't say I know everything or can solve any problems, but again, it will benefit me also to see some of your ideas, problems, and so on. So it's a two-way street that way. And next one is big expectations. I don't have a big expectation so on this series in general, as I said, because there are lots of skills which I learn myself every day. It takes time, it takes effort, and so on. But on the other side, I think this can grow fast and easy in terms of if channel grows itself, but also this series can maybe help the channel itself to grow and some of you, and it will maybe spread fast, so who knows. I don't expect much, but I think there is a potential because, as I said, I don't see this kind of approach on other people's channel which are game related, game development, game engines, and so on. But I think that's something which which YouTube viewers need and want. And again, even if I don't make it good or good enough, I think this idea can be used for some other channels for sure, bigger channels, YouTube channels, and more complex, more professional, more interesting channels which can make something like that where you communicate with your YouTube subscribers and viewers and help them on some kind of their problem or their the idea which they have. The next topic is problem solution approach. That's how that's the idea on whole series, the whole topic videos, which again, as I said, is based on you making a question and I trying to answer it in shortest but also the best, the most professional way which you can use it for your game idea, animation, or whatever you make. And that's divided on two sides, problem solution. But again, depending on how big or interesting or complex your problem is, maybe solution won't be easy or simple or one way, so maybe we will have to go back and forth to define it better or solve it better. And that's the next topic, next bullet point, which says define, describe, and so on. That's how I approach most of the time two problems which I have when I make a game or anything, program, code, draw, make art, whatever. And that's again not something which I have invented or something like that. That's a very common approach, and but most people avoid it for some reason, again because most of the people, especially younger people today, don't have a patience or interest in something more, so they give up easily and they skip steps. They try to make it as fast as possible without real effort or trying hard. So we're not going to do it that way here. I will first try to define, describe the problem, and again that's most of your work actually, because you will make the question and I will make the answer for it. So you as a viewer or the people or the guy who is making a question, try to define that question and describe it as good as possible so we can solve it easily. Otherwise it will be harder and we will have to go back and forth, as I just said, to define it better and to see what do we need to solve it all. And that's again very usable for all of you who are not working as a game designer, developer, or graphic designer, developer in general, but you want to do that in future. That's how you approach a client in real world, and that's how you work with the client. The client comes with a problem, okay, and he asks you to do something or give you some kind of idea, but you again depend on how that idea or problem is defined, and you need sometimes you need more description from client and so on. So that's again how we are approaching it here. And after we define and describe the problem, we have to analyze or explore the problem. So that's, if you remember me making some kind of tutorials here for some kind of simple games, dress-up games and so on. So the idea here was again to analyze what is game analysis and so on. So we had one video here, Scratch dress-up game analysis, where we analyzed what we are going to make and what do we need for that. That's in this particular specific problem of a dress-up game, that analysis exploring was us playing the game and writing down what do we need to make for it. So that's for different kind of problems that would be different, and it will take more or less time. So after we define the problem, analyze it, and see what do we have to do and what we already have, the next step is to divide the problem into smaller problems. That's most common approach, again, not only for me, but for most programmers mostly, but also for graphic design and so on. So you divide your problem, which is probably something complex or something like that. You divide it in smaller steps, in smaller problems, and then do what you first do what you know how, and that way you isolate the stuff you don't know, and then you approach it only at the end, only that problem which will then look much more smaller, and you will look at it with more power and motivation and self-confidence that you can do it, because it will look different, it will look limited, so you won't be afraid of it. And the other way is if you don't approach it that way, it will be much harder and demotivating for most of you, especially if you're a beginner. So you won't be able to approach the problem at any way, at any direction, so you won't be able to find a solution. It's simple as that. Again, that's one way. We will show some other ways probably later. Again, it depends on how much time you have, how much skills you have, if you're working in a team, so maybe you're dividing the problems to different people with different skills and so on. So for example, I don't know how to program multiplayer games, servers and so on, so I would be really stuck there, so someone else would have to do it, or I would have to pay someone to do it for me or something like that. But I can do some other stuff around it and so on. And that's it, I think, for this video. And the next two videos will be Q&A. I will start with question. There was a questions here, I think, where one guy, that was a long time ago, but anyway, it was a good question, where he asked how to destroy instance, but I have made a video clip about destroying instance in a GameMaker Studio, and that's okay, that works easy more or less, and it's very usable in games. But he asked how to destroy instance after some kind of animation. So animation plays like, I don't know, 5-6 frames and so on, and only after that animation is played, I want my instance destroyed. So I don't want my instance destroyed immediately, but after few seconds, after few animation sprites. So I will probably start with that in GameMaker. Maybe make another one in Scratch, because just to show how you can tackle the same problem in different engines, very similar or very different, and how to compare game engines features that way. And I think that's it. 20 minutes already. Yeah, I made the bullet points to talk less, but again, it didn't help that much. Sorry, I will have to. And I know a couple of you warned me already that videos should be shorter. I agree with that, but again, it takes time. Okay, see you in next video, and keep on learning.